A young girl named Lydia is introduced at the start of the movie. For her lover Jonah, Lydia purchases ammo and weapons at a gun store one morning. Jonah is a member of a gang that is run by El Padrino. Following the buying of the weapons, Lydia, Jonah, and two other group members visit the residence of an individual who is thought to have stolen money from El Padrino. 3 sons, a wife, and a husband live in the house. There are gunshots coming from inside. Jonah, Lydia, and the others show up soon after. Lydia appeared startled to hear the sound of breaking glass as Jonah fired the weapon because she isn't used to her lover becoming violent. 3 youngsters who are playing in the backyard of the house begin to run inside to hide. Lydia notices a man that Jonah has shot. Jonah is interrogating the husband's wife in an attempt to get her to reveal the location of the pilfered money, while 2 other members of the group search the house for the stolen money. The terrified wife says she is unaware of it. Lydia begs Jonah to spare the woman, dissatisfied with the state of affairs. Jonah orders Lydia to use the gun to shoot the woman. Despite Lydia's pleadings, she must demonstrate her allegiance, but Lydia can't do it because she's too afraid. Jonah remains, but Lydia falters and mistakenly shoots Jonah in the chest out of fear. Lydia leaves the scene in an attempt to save herself after realizing what she has done. Lydia's father, John Link, an elderly guy, enters the scene. That day, John told a story about his service as a soldier in the United States military at a support group. Then he talked about going to prison for 7 years if he killed someone by accident while drinking alcohol. John went to the meeting with his close friend Kirby, with whom he has been friends since their military days. It is revealed that John lives alone in an outdated camper van after divorcing his wife for some time. John is a tattoo artist who was discharged from the military, and he feels very alone in his life because he doesn't get to see his daughter very often. Shortly after, Lydia calls John and admits she's moving out of her house. Lydia says she needs the $2,000 immediately in order to get a job and locate a place to live. Although Lydia couldn't tell John the truth to protect him, she's actually pleading with him for the money so that she can flee from Jonah's companions. John, who is really concerned about his daughter, agrees to give Lydia the money and makes a commitment to deliver it to her as soon as possible, even though he doesn't currently have it. He's determined to help his daughter, even though he knows she's in jeopardy. Then, Lydia asks John to pick her up from a bar in Santa Monica, California. The moment the phone finishes, John gets in his car and drives to the address Lydia gave. The following day, after a protracted voyage, John finally reached his objective. A little while later, Lydia approached John and got inside the car while appearing nervous and afraid, tired of running away from John and his friends. Lydia dozed off during the drive back to John's house. John carried Lydia gently to her bed when they got home. Then he cleared out all the drugs and alcohol, making careful to lock up the gun he had discovered in Lydia's bag. John was really disturbed to learn that his daughter had become involved in a risky lifestyle. Lydia inquired about the money she had earlier sought as soon as she woke up, but John was unable to deliver it to her since he was short on cash. Lydia felt angry over her father's lying. Even though John tried to soothe her, he advised her to move in with him while she looked for work. Lydia wavered, worried that staying too long would endanger her father. She acknowledged that her boyfriend had passed away, but she refused to acknowledge that she was to blame. By now, John was aware that the police were looking for Lydia, as seen by the flyers all over the place. He advised her to stay for a week in order for him to get the necessary funds. John called Kirby for a loan later that day, but Kirby turned him down because he thought Lydia would use it for drugs. Instead, thinking Lydia was intoxicated, Kirby counseled John to get Lydia some medical or mental health attention. Several guys arrived at John's apartment in the evening, ostensibly to get tattoos, and he realized they constituted a threat to his daughter. John moved fast to lock down the area where Lydia was. John and Lydia were in a confrontation, and John protected them both. When one of the attackers broke the windows of John's camper van, trapping both John and Lydia, the situation got worse. Kirby and his buddies arrived just in time, forcing the attackers to leave owing to their large numbers. As soon as John realized his daughter was in danger, he quickly pulled Lydia away. They drove out of town that night, seeking refuge. Lydia at last realized on the trip told John the truth regarding Joanna's incident. She acknowledged that Jonah died as a result of an unintentional shot she fired at him while attempting to recover some stolen money that belonged to El Padrino. Now she was being pursued by the police, as well as Jonah's associates. John and Lydia resumed their trek later that evening and stopped for the night at a motel. Lydia couldn't sleep, so she stepped outside to get some fresh air and started talking to the young man working at the front desk. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted when word broke that Lydia was wanted by the police and appeared on the television. The motel promptly alerted the local authorities, providing them with Lydia's whereabouts. Lydia begged John to hurry up and get their belongings after realizing they were exposed, but a number of police officers were already outside the motel, obstructing their path. Thankfully, the young man from the lobby intervened and guided Lydia and John to a place of hiding. John slipped into an unoccupied room and peered out the window, taking careful stock of the situation. 2 officers were on their way, nearly spotting them. Subsequently, an explosion occurred from an alternate direction, killing the cops. Taking advantage of the situation, John and Lydia drove a motel guest's automobile to safety. Lydia's pursuers were a mystery figure who almost killed them with bullets. Fortunately, they succeeded in escaping. The following day, John got in touch with Jack, an old jail buddy, in an attempt to find Lydia's assailant. Jack, a well-connected former Mayfield leader, consented to help. Then John and Lydia used whatever transit they discovered along the route to go to another city. When John arrived at a saloon in Montana, he went in search of Tom Harris, an old military friend who owed him a favor, but the bartender wouldn't reveal Tom's location since he thought Lydia was John's girlfriend. John, irritated by the lack of cooperation, stepped out for a moment to ask Kirby for assistance. In the meantime, Lydia deftly charmed the bartender, who in turn gave her Tom's address. John and Lydia took a ride with a stranger and hurried to Tom's apartment after getting the location. Upon their arrival, John insisted on receiving the money and his Harley motorcycle, which Tom had previously borrowed. Sadly, Tom told them, with disappointment, that the money had disappeared. Tom invited a few of his motorcycle club members to his house that evening so they could meet John. Following the party, John and Lydia made the decision to spend the night at Tom's house. John and Lydia were forced to remain where they were the next morning when Tom and his wife threatened them with guns. It was revealed that Tom and his spouse were aware that John and Lydia were wanted by the police and had intended to turn them in exchange for a $30,000 reward. John, who was enraged by the betrayal, hit Tom Swift to take her weapon, then pointed the gun at Tom and demanded the return of his money and Harley. John valued their former friendship and decided not to kill Tom in spite of his rage. John and Lydia departed right away, taking his money and Harley from Tom's residence. Many of the guys Tom had ordered after them to apprehend them pursued them during their trip. John and Tom's goons engaged in a hard fight, but John won thanks to a weapon he had previously stolen from Tom. The following day, John and Lydia made the decision to alter their appearance in order to blend in. Lydia colored her hair a different color, while John shaved his mustache and beard. John later visited Jack in the prison in order to obtain information regarding Lydia's pursuit by the mafia. They discovered through Jack's contacts that John's friends and Al Pacino's allies are the ones who are chasing Lydia. It was shocking to learn that John was the actual robber who had taken all of Pedro's money. Jonah was the mastermind behind the movie's opening incident. He plotted to kill the other people and frame them in order to draw attention away from himself. But Jonah was going to kill someone when Lydia unintentionally shot him, which made El Padrino think Lydia was behind the heist. Lydia, who was still hiding at a motel, received a call from Kirby informing her that El Pedro's men had discovered her whereabouts. Kirby insisted that Lydia relocate right away to a livelier location. Lydia moved fast and went to a movie theater where she thought no one would suspect her. However, Jonah, who was later shown to be alive and out for revenge against Lydia, had set up the trap. Lydia attempted to flee after realizing she was in danger, but Jonah's men caught her. While all was going on, John attempted to contact Lydia, but received no response after seeing Jack in jail. When he inquired about Lydia's whereabouts out of concern, he discovered that Jonah had kidnapped and murdered Kirby. John confronted Jonah, enraged by the loss of his best friend and the kidnapping of his daughter. Jonah also made a threat to kill Lydia, hiding his actions from El Padrino, but if he hurt Lydia before confronting Jonah, John threatened to reveal Jonas's schemes to El Padrino to obtain grenades to use against Jonah and his group. John headed to Tom's house. Tom was in John's way, and he had to kill him in a terrible battle. John waved his hand to indicate he was unarmed when he got to the meeting spot. Jonah let him visit Lydia, who was imprisoned in his vehicle. Jonah's men were going to remove John's Harley motorcycle from their route with the intention of killing them both when John and his bike set off a grenade explosion that threw them off. John saw his opportunity and engaged Jonah and his guys in combat inside the vehicle. Following a fierce struggle, John prevailed, releasing Lydia from her bonds. Jonah managed to escape, although he did so after John and Lydia used his abandoned car to go, but then the hills attacked again, and John was hit by a bullet from El Pedro's hired sniper, falling to the ground with no way out. John gave his all in order to keep his dear daughter safe. John died in Lydia's arms, one last time seeing his daughter's face before he succumbed to his wounds. Soon after, Jonah was taken into custody by the police. In the final scene of the film, Jonah is faced by Jack and his associates while incarcerated, giving a glimpse of the challenges he will encounter. Thanks for watching my videos.